Well, lo and behold, we have a new tropical storm in the southwest Gulf of Mexico. We'll be talking about that. Really nice day in the Northeast and in the Mid-Atlantic states, and even here in the Southeast. Cold front getting ready to approach. We'll let you know what that means. Cold air to follow as we head into next week. We'll cover it all tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, in southwest Suffolk County on Long Island, serving the entire New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, tri-state area to make sure that your home looks great, it is working correctly, and if there's adverse weather, you're protected, and that's extremely important. Of course, come winter time, let's add the salt element. If you need rock salt, they are Long Island's largest rock salt provider, along with plenty of mulch and topsoil, and of course all the supplies you would need in case we were to get adverse weather. 631-756-1125. The best prices anywhere, and the website is.
It is OmniTrueValue.com.
That it is, and that it will always be. and here we are. You know, Joe, I bought a scale. You can't just buy a scale anymore. It comes with an app. And you have to download the app, and then the app yells at you if you weigh too much or too little. That was my religious experience for the day, was getting a new scale. So how are you today?
Daniel Vogelback was in a drugstore the other day, and he got out his dime and he put it in the scale, stepped on it, a little card came out. You know what it said?
I can only imagine.
One person at a time, please. And for those of you who don't know who Daniel Vogelback is, he was the guy who the Mets paid an arm and a leg to be the designated hitter for their team this year. And I saw somewhere in some sport book or whatever like that, he supposedly weighs 275 pounds.
Oh, good
and
Lord.
I said to Renata, yeah, on one leg. If you've seen Daniel Vogelback, he looks like a grocer who's eaten a good deal of the profits. Let's put it that way.
Well, I will just tell you that I have no clue whatsoever as to who
Daniel Vogelback is.
Yeah,
I'll have to get a picture of him for you, and you can see for yourself what he looks like. Anyway, it was a beautiful day today. It looks like we're on our way toward another beautiful day tomorrow.
And then after that, we will have showers and thunderstorms. And I'm just bring up, I didn't even look to see what SPC updated their forecast for Thursday. And they left it as a marginal risk, and they didn't really change it from what they put up earlier today. But we'll get to that map in a moment. New tropical storm in the southwest Gulf of Mexico, where, Joe, they when they form down there, it's like it's in a lake in the Bay of Campeche. They seldom, every once in a while, you'll get one that comes out and moves northward or northeastward. But a lot of times they just get trapped there. Even though we've got this big trough that's dropping into the east, it's not going to catch it. If anything, it's going to make it turn more to the southwest.
And it's not going to really, and it doesn't look like it's going to be developing into much of any. I mean, it's kind of, we were talking about this yesterday. It's kind of like trapped, so to speak. So it'll be out there for a little while with a name and then move inland. And that more or less will be that for this particular storm system.
Right. Gets the another name out of the way, the 11th tropical storm of the season. So there are, what are there? 20 days left in this month, and 50 days to get to 14 as far as the normals are concerned. And by the way, even though if you follow this along on the loop from back a few days ago when Julia went into Nicaragua, this gets a new name because the core of Julia went to the west and dissipated. And this is a totally brand new system. So that's why it doesn't, even though the moisture, when you look at it, it looks like it was blown off from the top of Julia. It was not the core of Julia that survived. So therefore, you get a new name, Tropical Storm Karl with a K. And at 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time, it was at 19.6 north and 94.4 west with maximum sustained winds of 40 miles an hour, minimal tropical storm, moving northwest at 6. And you can see the Hurricane Center's forecast. It just sort of inches up to the northwest into Wednesday afternoon, and then it turns west and then southwest. And they have tropical storm warnings up for parts of the southeast coast of Mexico. So I don't think there's going to be too much in the way of surprises here. I doubt that it's going to get picked up by the cold front that's going by to the north. So this will just play itself out. And other than that, there are no other tropical systems pending. So that's a good thing. And welcome to everybody on the chat board, by the way. Welcome to everyone tonight watching the Joe and Joe Weather Show. We're glad to have you. And if you like, you could subscribe to my YouTube channel so you get notified every time the Joe and Joe Weather Show is on, which is on a regular basis. We're on Monday through Thursday, start time at 7:35 Eastern Time. And Sundays at 11 a.m. We take Friday and Saturday off unless there's something really important going on, in which case we appear on a ad lib basis, and we of course give plenty of notifications. Please make sure your notifications are turned on YouTube so that you never miss a Joe and Joe Weather Show. And there's the satellite. Most of the country, Joe, kind of quiet, but you can see some of the two players here. You've got this moisture that is moved into the middle Mississippi Valley and towards the Great Lakes, and then a break, and then behind that, a stream of clouds in the Dakotas down through Nebraska and Colorado. That's the cold front, and the two areas are going to be pretty much merged together by this time tomorrow night. And I still think we could see some stronger thunderstorm cells somewhere when this thing moves to the East Coast on Thursday.
I'm thinking that Joe, the chances for convection will be greatest not Thursday morning, not even Thursday afternoon, but sometime late Thursday night. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a system that will provide us with convection or thunderstorms after midnight Thursday night into the early morning hours of Friday morning. So I know that, there's been a lot of talk about the possibility of, maybe some thunder and lightning here during the afternoon hours on Thursday. But I honestly think that much of this activity, or much of the thunderstorm activity, will hold off until later Thursday night and spill over into early on Friday. Not to say, however, that we won't have any precipitation on Thursday. There'll probably be a few scattered showers here and there during the first half of the day, and then the showers will become more frequent and widespread as we move into the afternoon. More showers, especially so for Thursday night. And that's also when I think we'll see the thunderstorms. And it doesn't look good for the Yankee game on Thursday. They are playing the first game of the divisional series tonight against Cleveland at Yankee Stadium. And I don't know why it is that game 2 is not until Thursday, but whoever came up with that schedule, it may not have been the best, because, the Yankees could have played tomorrow night and it'd be no problem, but they have to wait till Thursday. And Thursday's game looks like it's going to be a game that could conceivably, I will say it right here and now, could conceivably be rained out. And then I don't know what they're going to do when they're going to move the second game till, but that's my opinion. I think we'll be looking at a problematic weather day on Thursday as opposed to tomorrow, which will be beautiful out there. Another great day, just like today was.
Yeah, I've got the surface map up this evening, and the high, oftentimes highs move out and you start to warm up. But I'm just kind of looking, this thing, the high center is still sitting somewhere in Northwest Virginia. So we really aren't getting into some of the return flow that you're seeing ahead of the cold front to the west in Illinois and Indiana, where temperatures are in the 60s. and then you go to southern Indiana and across southern Illinois and into Missouri, and you're looking at excuse me, and you're looking at temperatures that are in the 70s. And in Kansas, we'll see temperatures in the 80s today, and even up into eastern Nebraska and western Iowa. And also, Joe, even up into parts of southwestern Minnesota, temperatures in the upper 70s and low 80s with this weather front. And you see it here back through North Dakota, through Nebraska, then kind of swings around into Colorado. And it, that's where the real warm air is going up. And of course, you head down south and you're looking at temperatures in Texas today that reached out there at least at 5 o'clock this afternoon Eastern time. A lot of upper 80s and lower 90s. Well, wait, do I see? Yeah, there's some lower 90s in there. Here in North Georgia, at least where I am, it got to the upper 60s today in the mountains, and everybody else seemed to get into the upper 70s and low 80s in the Peach State. And as far as the radar is concerned, it is looking quiet again from Maine down to Florida, other than a few showers offshore, Georgia and South Carolina. And then you head out to the west, and you see the area that's around the Great Lakes, that first area of clouds and moisture that's zooming up to the Great Lakes, the break in between, and then, of course, you've got the showers starting to set up from western Minnesota down through central South Dakota and into western Nebraska. A little bit disjointed, I think, right now, which is why you probably aren't seeing more in the way of showers and thunderstorms. But that changes tomorrow when the front moves east, and it changes even more on Thursday when the front reaches the East Coast. By the way, I happened to see a hazards map today that showed an area of severe drought extending across a very narrow area, but it went right across the Hudson Valley and into, I believe, northwest Connecticut, and then also the south shore of Long Island marked out with a severe drought. So the rains of last week in some areas didn't do, didn't really do a lot, and that's something. By the way, I noticed I saw a couple of posts. Let me just come back full screen for a minute. I saw a couple of posts uh, uh, say when they showed the latest drought map from last Thursday, which left out only went through Tuesday as last Tuesday, so it missed the next 2 days of rain. And people don't seem to understand that when you have a severe drought, one soaking rain, even a soaking rain of size, like what occurred last week, that 5 day stretch, is not it's not enough to alleviate severe drought conditions. You need probably several of those over the course of time, a short period of time, in order to really get rid of the drought situation.
Well, the severe drought is, according to, and as you just mentioned, Joe, the data is valid as of October 4, which is last Tuesday.
Yes.
So certainly they should be updating that. Actually, the map was released on Thursday the 6th, and they'll release, I'm sure, another map based upon the data that was collected up until today, this coming Thursday. But it is severe. The drought is across southeastern New York, over the north half of Westchester County.
You could share the map, by the way.
Northern Rockland County. Yeah, okay, I'll do that right now then. Makes it easier for me. And you could all see it. You can see here on this particular map that it is northern Westchester County, the north half of Rockland County, southern and eastern sections of Orange County, all of Putnam County. I am in Putnam County, and lower sections of, or the southern sections of Dutchess County, and on Long Island, everywhere, I guess, south of Interstate 495, the Long Island Expressway, you have severe drought conditions as well. I just want to see something for a second. What happens if I clicked on? Oh, okay. So that only highlights. So you can see I just highlighted Putnam County where I am. So that pretty much is where the rest of New York State looks pretty good. I mean, no drought problems, a little bit of abnormally dry conditions in parts of western New York, including, I guess, Rochester and Onapier near Watertown. And just on the outskirts of the severe drought, there's moderate drought and eventually abnormally dry conditions reaching up to the middle and upper Hudson Valley. But again, I'd say about 70 to 80% of New York State is in good shape in terms of water. It's just the southeastern part of New York State that, again, is enveloped in the dry to severely dry conditions.
What about New England?
What about New England? Well, we can go back and check out New England. Well, you could see here, Maine is in pretty good shape, aside from maybe some abnormally dry conditions down around the Portland area. In Vermont, about half the state is abnormally dry. The other half is in no problems. Central and northern New Hampshire, no problem. But as you get down toward the southern end of the state, let's see, close in view of New Hampshire here, the southern end, you have moderate drought. And right at the very bottom, in the extreme southeastern corner, there is severe drought indicated in New Hampshire. Then we go to Massachusetts, which has really been having all kinds of problems, and they're still in the midst of problems. In fact, you think severe drought is bad enough. Somewhere just to the north of Boston, they have extreme drought. So not good news in Massachusetts, even on Cape Cod and the islands. They have varying forms of moderate or severe drought. And let's see, checking out Connecticut. Connecticut has abnormally dry conditions in the east, but it is ranging from moderate to severe drought out in the west. And lastly, let's take a look at Little Rhodey, Rhode Island. And Rhode Island is abnormally dry in the north and central sections, and moderate drought in southern sections of Rhode Island. So really, in the northeastern part of the country, it's the New York area, parts of northern New Jersey, and parts of southern and south central New England that have a problem with the drought situation. Otherwise, the rest of the Northeast is in fairly good shape.
Well, let's check out New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and then we can go on from there.
Well, New Guernsey or New Jersey is in moderate drought up in the northernmost sections of the state. We have abnormally dry conditions in north central. We do have a strip here, or a stripe, of severe drought in northeastern New Jersey, and abnormally dry conditions most everywhere else in central and southern sections of the state, except down toward Cape May and Atlantic City. They are in moderate drought as well. Pennsylvania, look at the Keystone State here. They don't look all that bad. They have, I'd have to say, at least 70% of the state has no problems, but in portions of northwestern Pennsylvania and also across sections of central and east central Pennsylvania in this stripe here, which probably includes the Lehigh Valley, there is abnormally dry conditions. But overall, not really all that bad in Pennsylvania. In fact, of all the states, Pennsylvania might be one of the better states in terms of drought conditions. Again, just abnormally dry in a few places, but most spots in Pennsylvania, nothing really to write home about.
Yeah, one clobbering rain does not solve the problems with regards to drought. Although some areas did get a little bit relief. Those areas have seen their numbers. They've gone from maybe extreme drought to severe drought. They've knocked it down a scale or two in parts of southeastern New England, for example. But you still got that little stripe that's just north of Boston. So it's going to take a couple of more of these soaking rain events to bring some genuine relief to all of this. And since we're talking about rainfall, we might as well look to see what our buddies at WPC and this is for tonight into tomorrow night, 8 o'clock tonight to 8 o'clock Thursday. and you start to see all the Gulf moisture. Joe, it hasn't rained here in North Georgia where I am for almost for 4 weeks. Uh,
Yeah.
it may even been a little bit longer. I mean, this is a dry time of year in this part of the country, and so to get and the weather is exceptional, but we starting to get a little dry here. So, but even here, WPC at least for tomorrow, tonight into tomorrow night, only showing that light green, which is between 100th and 1/10 of an inch. Some
We
heavier.
need the maps, Joe.
Oh, thank you. Good. I didn't get that far. Uh, sorry about that. Uh, there we go. And there we are. And I'll get out of here. So you can see the area to the south. Still two separate areas. The Gulf moisture is getting involved. Going to be getting involved, and some Atlantic moisture getting involved for the east on Thursday. But in the Great Lakes, you get anywhere from a half to 3/4 of an inch or a little bit more for tomorrow, and then we'll move on to the next day, which is where we go. Where are we? So day 2. This is Thursday into Friday. And the rainfall, and Joe, you pointing out that maybe those thunderstorms will be late Thursday night or Friday morning. I think the way WPC has their map drawn kind of goes along with that, because this is from 8 o'clock Wednesday night to 8 o'clock Thursday night. Now, it's not going to rain at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. This is all going to start during the day Thursday from west to east, but by Thursday evening, about 1/4 of an inch at New York City and Atlantic City, about a half an inch to maybe 3/4 of an inch at Philadelphia, and a little bit more in Northeast PA and parts of upstate New York. And then you got to add day 3, where you have a half an inch for northern New Jersey and extreme northeastern PA, and of course New England is getting more of this Thursday night into Friday. And then after that, we can go to, now we're up to day 3, so day 4, Saturday into Sunday, nothing in the east except some leftover rain up in Maine, and then some lighter moisture around the Great Lakes, because we do have a second cold front that's going to be coming through, but WPC doesn't seem too impressed with that. Some rain, though, developing in the lower Mississippi Valley onto the southwest on day 5. Day 6, which is Monday through Tuesday. Now, I was looking, when that cold air starts coming into the east, Joe, I'm thinking that there might be a little, the first of the lake effect snow showers, perhaps, early next week when that cold air arrives.
Yeah, not surprising. We have seen, and we were talking about this a couple of days ago, how back in 1979 there was an unusual outbreak of cold air and snow. And if it happens early enough in the season, this is usually the time when it does happen, in the middle part of October. And so it would not be surprising to see some of the flakes fly in the coming days ahead.
And the 7-day rainfall totals from our friends at WPC showing, just north and west of the New York City and Philadelphia, in that purple area is 1.5 inches. The red area is in upstate New York and in northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. That's 2 to 3 inches worth of liquid. Lesser amounts to the lakes, lesser amounts coming down to the southeast. And looks like some tropical moisture getting involved in parts of in Texas, where you see some heavier rains down near the coast, and anywhere from, say, 3/4 of an inch to 1.5 inches or so from Arizona eastward across New Mexico and into western and central Texas. The plains are mostly dry, as is the Pacific Northwest, which is what we would expect if you have a trough in the west and trough in the east and a ridge in the west. So on that note, let's just bring the upper air up for everybody so we could take a look at what the jet stream is shaping up to be. And of course, right now, we're just kind of setting the table for this deep trough that's dropping out of Canada and toward the northwestern Great Lakes. And that's where it kind of sits for a little while, Thursday and Friday, and just rotates. So the first shot of cool air, the coldest air, is going to wind up being to our west. We have to wait for a second arm to come around that upper low. And you see how as it rotates, The trough begins to shift eastward Sunday and Monday, and then it strengthens near the coast. You got a pretty deep trough here, Joe. Look at this. For Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, the core of that cold air aloft is right over Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, southern and southeastern New England. Come Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, you got a big ridge, big upper high building up in the northwest, pushing up into western Canada. Deep trough at 160, trough in the east, ridge up at 40, higher pressures over Greenland, mostly higher pressures across Canada, and our flow of air is coming right down. This cooler air is going to make it all the way down to Florida. This front's going to push all the way south. And by the way, just going back to Tropical Storm Karl, you can kind of see the Southwest Gulf is basically in a no man's land. I'll just roll this back a bit. There's actually an upper high. That's Monday. So let's roll back. So let's get to Wednesday. I'm sorry, Tuesday. And then here we are this evening. There's a narrow ridge across the Gulf of Mexico, in the northern Gulf of Mexico, that actually extends from the Pacific side all the way out into the Atlantic south of Florida. You see it here. There's the one upper high, and the ridge goes just like so, and that little hump that you see right underneath that is where you have Tropical Storm Karl. And over the next couple of days, the trough dropping down from the north just completely misses it. So it just gets trapped there. And I guess the folks in the Gulf states, particularly in the eastern Gulf states and Florida, are pretty happy about this, because the last thing they need is to have another tropical system come out from there, moving northeastward. They still, of course, the cleanup from Ian is still going on. And after this big trough in the east, another arm comes down late next week into the eastern part of the United States. So now we're at Sunday, October 23rd. So this is a long last. Look at this, Joe. There's even another one after that swings down into the east. This pattern is pretty solid here, going right through the end of the month. October is going to finish. If this is right, October is going to finish with below normal temperatures. And by the way, Tony Gigi said that, we brought that statistic up in Philadelphia about there have been 15 below normal temperature Octobers in Philadelphia. 10 of those were followed by colder than normal winters. But he sent me a note today that of the the 5 that missed, okay, 3 of those 5 had a colder than normal October, followed by a warmer than normal November, which I thought was kind of interesting. So November may wind up being a key month if we wind up with below normal temperatures in November tied with below normal temperatures in October. But we have to wait and see if this pattern looks like at least it wants to hold through the end of the month.
We'll take a look at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook that I'm now sharing on my screen, Joe, and this is valid from October 17th through October 21st. So we're talking about next Monday, next week, next Monday through next Friday, the 17th through the 21st. And if this works out, it's going to be an unseasonably chilly week. In fact, take a look. It's an interesting, here's a $5 word for you, an interesting dichotomy, if you will. The eastern United States, below normal. The western United States, especially up in the Pacific Northwest, is above normal. In fact, this zone that you see here that covers a good chunk of Washington State, northern and western Idaho, much of central and eastern Oregon, and also extreme northern sections of Nevada. This area right here has an 80 to 90% probability of above normal temperatures. So well above seasonal normals if you're out here in the northwestern U.S. On the other hand, take a look over here, 80 to 90% probability of below normal temperatures covering much of the Ohio Valley, western portions of Pennsylvania, and also all of West Virginia and central and western Virginia, and on into central and eastern Kentucky. So all of this is below normal, and that 80 to 90% probability diminishes some to 70 to 80% probability, moving now up close to New York tri-state area, and 70 to 80% here in the New York area. This stripe here indicating 70 to 80% below normal probability. So basically, next week in this part of the country, it's going to be unseasonably chilly, if not downright cold, especially in the nighttime hours. And again, if you want warm temperatures, you got to go west, young man or young lady, west of the Mississippi. And even when you're west of the Mississippi, you're going to have to go well to the west of the Mississippi to start getting into near normal and then eventually above normal temperature regime. And up in the area of our vast 49 state, Alaska, even they will be experiencing above normal temperatures for much of next week as well. The CPC does not do anything about Hawaii, so we really don't know. And maybe for the people out in the CPC, they just don't want to do them. But you can see that the western United States is warm, Alaska is warm, and we here in the east look like we're going to be chilly or cold.
Well, if we follow the temperature anomalies, which is what I have up on the screen here, or will have up on the screen shortly. Just a second. Ooh, disappeared. Maybe I could put my map up now. No, my map doesn't want to come up. All right, well, that's interesting. Hold on a second.
It's looking dark, Joe.
Yeah, I know. There we go. Okay. So what we have here are the 2-meter temperature anomalies, starting with Thursday, and of course tomorrow. Well, I'll back it up even to tomorrow. It starts to go a little above normal, and you're going to be above normal on Thursday. Now you see this first shot of cold air with the first cold front gets pretty much spent just to the west in the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, the back over into the eastern part of the northern plains. By the time we get to Saturday, we're back to a little above normal Saturday and Sunday because we got to wait for that second cold front. Now this one, when it comes through, that's when that trough really strengthens. And you see the big anomalies here as we move through the first part of the week over Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois. This is Wednesday evening of next week, all below east of the Mississippi, also in much of southeastern Canada and south central Canada, above normal in western Canada and in the west, which you would expect. And then here comes the next trough that swings down. This one, if the GFS is right, the initial push is southward through the plains and down into Texas. And this is the one that, with the jet going all the way down to Florida, look at the extent of the below normal temperatures all the way down into central, almost southern Florida there. They're going to have, if it gets down, once it gets under 70, they got coats on in South Florida. But just taking it through the end of the month, and it's here's the last one that the GFS shows. Again, obviously this is going to change, but to some extent in the longer range. But I think the overall flavor of things is that that it's trough in the east, ridge in the west, trough at 160, ridge out at 40, and that is favorable for colder than normal conditions for most of the eastern half of the United States.
It certainly does look like it's going to be a spell of cold weather for the middle and latter part of this month. I'm just looking here on the they see now they changed that at the last second. I was looking at the 1 month outlook, and I'll show this. Let me show this up on the. Let me share this with everybody.
Hang on 1 second. I'm just running the GFS. I wanted to see through. I'm looking at it now. This is the 12Z. I haven't looked at the 8. I've been using the 12Z GFS, by the way. So you should be proud once again.
I'm happy.
Yeah, because especially in the longer range, it's much more reliable. All right, let's get back to you. And there you have it, the monthly temperature outlook. This is for November or October?
No, this is for October. Now, if I recall, on the 15th of September, they had the monthly temperature outlook for October, and they had much of the country above normal. But now, right at the end of September, their update for October shows below normal for the eastern part of the country. There you go, including New York State, southern New England, much of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, all the way down to parts of North Carolina and as far west as the eastern end of the Ohio Valley. Although the way things are looking more and more, they perhaps should have broadened that below normal a little bit further back to the west and to the south. But at least they have us below normal. They have the rest of the country above normal. And I think this area right here, if after what we just saw, Joe, on the map that you just showed, showing that big, broad area of cold air just making the plunge straight south by later on in the month, certainly it's not going to be above normal. Certainly it should be more like near or below normal as far back into the central part of the country. So there you go. That's the Climate Prediction Center's outlook for October, and it looks like it may need a bit of a tweak. I don't know if they're going to tweak this again in mid-October or whether or not they're just going to move on to November.
Well, why don't you move on to November?
I don't think they have November yet up there. Now they have the 3-month outlook. This is the 3-month outlook that was issued on the 15th. Now, you see what I told you? On the 15th of September, they had much of the country above normal in October. And when they did the 3-month outlook for October, November, December, they had exceptional warmth here in New England, much of the country above normal, except in the places that are going through extreme temperatures right now, above normal in the Northwest. They have equal chances. Well, guess what? You roll the dice, the equal chances come up above normal for this part of the country here. So, you can only go so far, I think, with some of these seasonal temperature outlooks and even the 1-month outlook, because sometimes even they change quite a bit. I might point out that when they come up with their next outlook, I guess in mid-October, or no, actually be like mid-November. Mid-November, it'll cover December, January, and February, which is meteorological winter. And so by mid-November, we'll have the winter outlook from Climate Prediction Center. But right now, it looks like the outlook is a little bit on the well, it's certainly not going to be above normal in October. That is for sure. So the first month of this 3-month outlook looks to be needing to be having some adjustments, if you will, in the coming weeks.
Well, they've had to play catch up before, so wouldn't be the first time. Here's what it looks like. I'm going to put the radar on the GFS first. And I'm sorry, let me roll it back so we get the event on Thursday. So you can see the separate areas, some Gulf moisture there and some lead moisture that runs up to the lakes, and then the moisture with the cold front. They just kind of all get together, and everything starts to get amplified Wednesday night and Thursday. So this is Thursday morning. This is Thursday afternoon. This is Thursday evening. This is 2 a.m. Friday morning, where they're still showing rain in New Jersey and in eastern New York, and then by morning at 8 a.m. still raining over eastern Long Island and up in New England, but it's dry everywhere else. In fact, most of the nation is dry, and a little bit of snow coming into Minnesota and around parts of Wisconsin, a little light snow there. And here comes the second cold front that approaches on Saturday with a couple of showers. And then there's going to be a third cold front that's going to come through probably on Monday. In fact, the models kind of generate a little bit of a wave there in Chesapeake Bay and takes it up into Maine. And it's from that you get that big high to come down and the cold air to follow. And maybe some lake effect snow there on Tuesday, Joe. The GFS's radar depiction showing some snow in northwestern PA and in southwestern New York, and even parts of the upper Hudson Valley, maybe where there's some elevation up in the Adirondacks there Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. It wouldn't shock me. The magnitude of the upper trough and everything that's going on. I think we're going to see something snow wise in the lake effect regions come next week. And then longer term, what goes out, another front, another big high, and on it goes. And GFS tries to make some kind of storm system on the 21st, running up to the northeast to usher in that shot of cold air. So you're in a pattern that the folks on the chat board would only wish, the snow lovers on the chat board only wish that it holds on till December, January, and February, and March, and maybe even into April. But we'll have to see about that because it doesn't always do that. In fact, it could very well flip at any at some point. I think folks on the chat board also talking about the La Nina. Well, it's not. Look, if one thing this hurricane season should have taught you from that is the fact that we're not going to see 20 named storms, and we had an August that was dead in the water. There are other factors in play here that includes, by the way, the strength of the polar vortex up in the stratosphere that might allow for additional blocking. So that's another part of this equation that is probably, I think, much more important than the La Nina is this particular season. And I would also point out that if you look back, there were the winter of 95, 96, Joe, was a year where we had a strong La Nina. So clearly, that did not prevent big snows from happening in the eastern part of the United States because you probably had a very weak polar vortex in the stratosphere that particular winter. So the mistake that a lot of folks make in the weather world is that they point at one thing and say, okay, that's the magic bullet, and there really is no magic bullet. There's just too many variables that you have to look at. And I would also throw in, we still don't know if will there have been an effect from that undersea volcano that erupted over the summer that shot that big bowl of water vapor up into the atmosphere in the southern hemisphere. And that's another big question.
Yeah, but again, that's the Tonga volcano, and a good part of the southern hemisphere came under the effects of that volcanic eruption back in January in terms of their major aerosol or ash cloud. The question is how much of that may have filtered north of the equator and may have affected the weather or is affecting the weather in the northern hemisphere. I like to use the term that you like to say, Joe. That's above my pay scale. I'm not into volcanology and how such clouds, upper atmospheric clouds, may have an effect on future weather, other than the fact that if this were perhaps a northern hemisphere volcanic eruption, we might very well be seeing right about now some significant effects from that volcanic blow up. Thank you, Leon Probitsky, for hitting Super Chats. And he has a fox, it looks like a fox, clapping, bravo, bravo. Leon also, I think, mentioned that he would like very much, Joe, to have a winter similar to the one in 1977, the so-called, at least the one I call, the Alberta Clipper winter.
Well, we will know in the fullness of time. I'll be philosophical and just kind of leave it at that.
Yeah, and there's one thing we do know for certain, unlike last winter, is that this year in December, I will be here. I will not be at the bottom of the world as I was last December, cavorting with the penguins.
Yeah, that is definitely good to know. I'm just doing a quick check here. Yeah.
And no, William Jersey Shore, we don't expect any snow in your vicinity on the 21st of this month. So let's get that out of the way, too.
Since we're talking about the La Nina, I figured why don't I bring up the Pacific sea surface temperature anomalies, and you could see La Nina is alive and well in the East Pacific and the equatorial East Pacific and going all the way westward. Look at that arm. That has not. I don't think it's changed very much at all in the last month. So it's still out there raging.
But
And
look, Joe, south of the Aleutians, what the heck is that? That's a big pool of warm water, isn't it?
yeah, that I've seen a few people talk about this. There's this major pool here of water south of the Aleutians where the anomalies are 4 to 5 degrees Celsius above average. So that's kind of interesting. Also, look at the pool that's on the Atlantic side around Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and south of Greenland. Also, a big pool of very warm water that extends almost all the way to Britain, where we're talking anomalies of 3 to 4 degrees Celsius above average. So the northern oceans are warm, and I've seen it. There are years where you point out there, oh, there's a warm pool, then it doesn't really matter in terms of what the outcomes are. Oh, the waters are warm, so it means that storms are going to, they're going to be stronger and all the rest of it in the wintertime. And well, that's not necessarily true either. You got to have the troughs in the right spot. You have to have the dynamics. Really have the dynamics. So this is again another piece of the puzzle. And if you look at those warm water temperatures, which by the way, interestingly enough, that big Alaskan storm really didn't do much to bring those numbers down. So with upwelling, so maybe that means that there'll be a good chance that we could see a negative East Pacific oscillation. That's a possibility.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
But just maybe. Just maybe.
I'm trying to remember if it was 2 winters ago where going into the winter there was all this warm water up there, and then all of a sudden it didn't matter. And we had the troughing, that was down in the west for what seemed like an endless period of time, at least endless for snow lovers anyway. But
why not? This is the third consecutive year, moving into the third consecutive winter that we have below normal temperatures in the Pacific, a third consecutive year of La Nina weather. And it would be nice to know if, and I think this is what you were just alluding to, is this going to be the third consecutive year where we have that pool of unusually warm water south of the Aleutians and also warm water in the vicinity of the Maritimes? Or were we without those warm water zones last year or the winter before? That may be a factor or played a factor in the ultimate, winter weather.
And on that note, I think we could segue over to Briller Jeopardy, which I think you may have tonight.
I think I do. I believe I do. If I can get there. And yes, and here we are. And let's see what we have here. Why am I not? Come on, move up a little bit. I'm having trouble getting or accessing this. All right. So the category tonight, according to the chairman, according to NOAA, these 7 cities average the most snow in a winter. These 7 cities average the most snow in a winter. There are 2 hints. One, each city has a population of at least 50,000.
Okay.
And hint number, that's not much of a hint. I mean, like where I live right now we have a population of about 10,000, so we're not all that far away from 50,000. And 2, 3 of the 7 are right here in New York State. So 7 cities averaging the most snow in a winter. And baseball rules, 3 outs or 3 wrong and you're out of here. So.
Okay, so
Joe,
you're saying three. You said 3 of them are in New York State?
Correct.
So I will say Syracuse, Rochester. Now I'm trying to decide which B to go with. I'm gonna take a shot, and I'm gonna go with Binghamton.
Well, you got 2 of the 3.
So
you should have gone with the other. You should have gone with the other B. Yeah.
Yeah, Buffalo's kind of a funny place because the lake effect there, the wind has to be more west-southwest. So, I mean, if you look at the winter of '77 when Buffalo got clobbered, they had a west-southwest wind basically for 2 months,
Right.
and that just absolutely hammered them with snow. So I was trying to decide. I took a shot with Binghamton, and I guess I fell.
Well, Buffalo has 95.5 inches, and that is number 4 on Mr. Briller's list. Number 3 is Rochester, or Rochester. All right, boss. 102 inches of snow. And number one on the list is Syracuse. Oh, 127.8 inches. I've been to Syracuse only once. That was for the New York State Fair. I think that was 8 years ago. And nothing against the people who live in Syracuse, but it ain't much of a town. I was not very impressed, aside from the New York State Fair, with Syracuse, and to have to live there in the winter and deal with over 100 inches of snow, 127.8 inches of snow, not my cup of tea. So we have Syracuse, we had Rochester, we have Buffalo. So now you have to get the other 4 on the big city list.
All right, my brain is going to another big lake effect area, so I'm thinking, Michigan, maybe somewhere in Michigan. I don't know what the populations of these cities are, but I'm sure they're over 50,000. And I don't know what the population is at Sault Ste. Marie or Marquette. Marquette gets clobbered up there on the UP. So I'll say, you know what? I'll say Marquette.
Unfortunately, Marquette is not on the list.
Okay.
And that's your second. So.
We're talking about the whole U.S. I mean, I'm just trying to visualize. Caribou usually does pretty well, but that's way up in northern Maine. I'll just say Caribou.
Caribou not on the list.
So let's see if the chat board people can get the folks on the chat board can get the rest of these.
Okay, well, let's see.
What about Erie, PA?
Leon, Erie is number 2, believe it or not. Erie, Pennsylvania, with 104.3 inches. Just a shade ahead of Rochester at number 3. And Rochester's a little bit ahead of Buffalo at number 4 at 95.5, which used to be a heck of a great radio station before they changed format here in New York.
Christinapedia said Fairbanks, Alaska.
Well, I will say this. One of the 7 is in Alaska. It is not, however, Fairbanks.
Okay.
This won't help any of you, I'm sure, but I actually have been to Alaska a couple of times, and this is one of the cities or one of the places in Alaska that I visited that's on the list.
Okay. So I would shy away from like any of the big cities. In some of you are mentioning big cities here, so I think the big cities probably not on there.
Johnny Quest has gotten. Is that? I thought I saw on that. I thought I saw that on the list.
Well,
yes, it is.
Johnny Sack says Fargo.
Johnny Quest is correct though, with the number 6 on the list for the cities with the greatest amount of snow annually, with a population of at least 50,000. He went with Flagstaff, and Flagstaff is number 6 at 90.1.
I was thinking about Flagstaff. It was running through my head. Robert Russo hitting super chat tonight. Thanks, Robert. Most appreciated as always.
No, John Sachs 77. No, not Houston.
No. and Brittany Rome. No, not Harrisburg. PA. No. Juneau's on the coast. So I would say probably not.
No, not Juneau.
Mark D42 says Nome.
Nome, I don't think is big enough. Does Nome have over 50,000 people? I don't know.
No one's mentioned Anchorage.
Well, mention it.
Anchorage.
Anchorage, number 7 on the list. 77.9 inches. I have been to Anchorage. I was there in March of 2016. They had hardly any snow, lots of old snow and ice on the ground, and they couldn't run the end of the Iditarod, the dog race. It was supposed to come to an end in Anchorage in March of 2016. Couldn't do it because there wasn't enough snow that year. That was one of those rare subpar years for snow in Anchorage. But Anchorage is number 7. Flagstaff is number 6. Buffalo 4. Rochester 3. Erie 2. Syracuse 1. What in the world is number 5?
Well, the chairman says, Trent, how about Trenton, New Jersey? Now, there are many things you could. There are many things that you could say about Trenton, New Jersey, but being a snow capital is probably not among them.
I'll give you folks a hint. I'll give you folks a hint. For number 5, it's another way to say a very large rock.
A very large rock, Boulder, Colorado.
There you go, Boulder, 92.8.
That was a good hint. First,
Yeah.
the first thing I thought of was stone, and then I said, no, there's no stone city I know of big enough that's stone. Plus, then I realized you said a very large rock, so that's when I went to Boulder, Colorado. So, all right, well, at least we got somebody in the Rockies. You'd be surprised, folks, if you look at the normal snowfalls at some places you think get a lot of snow don't. Or they get less than what you would imagine. Somebody put up Minneapolis. If you look at Minneapolis's normal snowfall for it's not New York City's at 30 inches. I think Minneapolis is maybe somewhere around 40. You would think it would be higher than that, but it's not. Yeah, the folks that live around the Great Lakes, that's all bonus for them. So they get the lake effect goes hog wild and they get absolutely hammered with snows in most but not all winters. So, well, that was fun to put everybody in the wintertime mood, I guess.
Yes.
And we got rid of the pornography person who's been coming on every day to put up a link to an adult dating site. That's, seriously. We're all old on this channel. We don't date anymore. Just so we're clear. And on that sad note, I think we can wrap up.
Oh, before we wrap it up, you said you never saw or knew who Daniel Vogelbach is. Daniel Vogelbach was acquired by the Mets mid-season, just before the trade deadline, from the Pittsburgh Pirates. And as I said, he is a little bit, in terms of weight. Well, let me just show you what Daniel. This is when he was on the Pirates. Just to give you an idea, Joe, about how large this gentleman is.
Hold on. Oh well, David Wells. Although
no, I didn't. No, David Wells wasn't that heavy.
Maybe it is height. Well, maybe not quite this heavy. But
this guy certainly takes the cake. In fact, not only does he take the cake, he ate the cake.
Oh, you're being mean now. You're being very mean.
Well, I'm only being mean because when I saw him the first time, I said, this guy can hit home runs. And he did. He hit a grand total of 4 for the Mets during the second half of the season. And I doubt very much if Mr. Vogelbach is going to be on. This guy has moved from one team to another team to another team. He can't seem to stay on any team for more than a year. So I don't expect that he's going to be with the Mets next year. But anyway, that's Daniel Vogelbach.
All right. Okie doke. Can I bring my face back on the screen now?
Sure.
There we are. So on that note, thank you very much tonight for joining us, and we will be back tomorrow night at 7:35 Eastern Time, right here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. And thanks everybody on the chat board, most appreciated with the super chat hits. And Joseph, we'll see you tomorrow
At 7:25.
at 7:25. Nighty night.
Yep. Night, night.